Howdy, welcome to the Lookout Podcast. My name is Chris DeBetta. I am the NST 7 and 8 National Youth Terrorism Support Lead. Co-hosting with me tonight is Miss Lolo Marshall.
Hello, I am the NST 2 or support lead for territories 1 and 2.
All right. Joining us tonight is someone very near and dear to my heart, someone who I've been working with over the past couple of months. It's been a great pleasure. We're joined tonight by the National Boatswain for the 2023-2024 term as Evan Nazareth. Evan, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How about you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm having a great time myself. So, tonight, I figure we need to get to know you a bit better. You and I have been chit-chatting a bit throughout this year, so has Lolo. But I think the world needs to get to know you a bit better. Would you agree, Evan?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we're going to be asking you a series of questions tonight just to make sure everybody gets to know you a bit better and so people know sort of your goals for your term. So Lolo, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, Evan, how long have you been in scouting?
Yeah, so I've been in scouting for 8 years now, since 2016. Kind of wild to say. I've been in Sea Scouts for 6 years now, since 2018. And yeah, that's a little bit about how I joined.
All right. So speaking of you joining, what inspired you to actually join scouting in the first place?
So I originally joined scouting because I wanted to go camping. I heard about it from one of my friends on my soccer team, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." But over the years, I've learned that there's a lot more to our program than just camping, which is awesome. We have older youth programs such as Sea Scouts Venturing and Exploring, as well as the Order of the Arrow, and that really led me to stay in it. I also had a lot of friends in my troop. Funny enough, the second I got to my first meeting, I realized that I knew everyone in my patrol already, which was kind of funny, between school, sports, church, and other things that I was up to at that time. So it was really cool that that brought us all together.
That's amazing. So obviously you've been in it a while, in scouting for a while. So what did your journey to like leading up to scouting and your position now look like?
Yeah, I would say for my first few years, at least within my troop, and we were just going around and camping in different locations. In my first year, I earned only like one merit badge, and then by the end of my time in my troop, I earned about 108. I would say what really kind of changed the course of things is when I was looking into things after my Eagle, as I was nearing it, and I looked into joining older youth programs. Um, and the first thing I was looking for was a Sea Scout ship. So I joined that in 2018, and that really changed the direction of a lot of things in my life. I really appreciated the challenge of the rank advancement system and that we had the opportunity to go sailing. I'd done a lot of kayaking and canoeing in my troop, about once a year, but I thought it was really cool once I had the opportunity to do that every month and go sailing on top of that. So that was really neat to me. And one of the things that I really appreciate about our program is our aquatic emphasis.
So just to make sure I heard that right, are you an Eagle Scout?
Yes. So I'm an Eagle Scout, a quartermaster rank Sea Scout. I'm a Summit in Venturing, and I'm a Vigil Honor member in the Order of the Arrow.
Very impressive, very impressive. So I heard you mention something about merit badges earlier when you were talking. So in terms of, I guess, rank advancement kind of requirements that you've been doing in your scouting career, do you have a favorite one? I know for me, big fan, on the water, I'm wearing the uniform, right? Canoeing, kayaking, all that stuff, but surely you have a favorite one as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say my favorite requirement is the quartermaster cruise. That was honestly one of the things that I was really looking forward to was the opportunity to do that. I did the sailing option, and I really enjoyed that it brought together all of the rank requirements and stuff for our program, but over the course of apprentice, ordinary, and able. Brought that all together, and having being able to teach and lead that cruise was really fun for me. I really enjoyed that. That was one of the first times I did a night sail, and that was really beautiful. We had a full moon out. It was an amazing night. So I would definitely say the quartermaster cruise is a really cool requirement because it brings together, if you choose to go that route within that requirement system, it's a really cool opportunity to bring together all your knowledge, have fun, and be able to help others rank advance as well.
And for sure,
Also, we just published a quartermaster rank ceremony script on cscout.org, which is a pretty cool thing.
check out the socials.
All right, so you've obviously you pointed out your vigil, you've literally just done it all as a scouter. So how has scouting impacted your life outside of your ship and your troop and away and everything else?
I would say one of the main things it taught me was to break down lofty goals into smaller chunks. Because when we look at things like an Eagle Scout, if you look at it at first glance, you say, wow, that person has done a lot. And it takes a lot to become an Eagle Scout. And it does. But one of the really cool things about our program and how it is we have requirements which help break that up into having measurable, attainable goals for each thing. And I would say that's one of the things that I took to heart about our program and how I approach, I guess, life in general is just if you want to accomplish something lofty, just figure out how you can break it up into smaller pieces and apply that. And I also learned that through different things such as National Youth Leadership Training, because how do you eat an elephant? One bite at one chunk at a time. Yeah. So it's just really cool to see that we can apply the skills that we do, because scouting is really just a fun opportunity to learn leadership and work with other people.
So to bounce off of that, do you think that you being in all these older youth programs then helped you to break those goals into smaller chunks?
Yeah, I would say that definitely helped a lot further because a lot of the older youth program requirements are a bit more challenging. So you have to figure out and learn to how to plan, how to break it up, especially for things like the quartermaster cruise, or just things within venturing, just how to go about accomplishing loftier goals, such as planning trips, leading a recruiting event, stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely say that helped me further do that.
All right. And like you've been talking about Vigil, Summit, Quartermaster, Eagle, all these scouting things. But you haven't really talked about, I guess, more of who is Evan Nazareth outside of scouting. And so I ask today, do you have any other extracurricular activities that you're involved in outside of scouting? And if you are involved, how do you balance your time between scouting and your personal life?
Just say I do a lot outside of scouting, which not a lot of people would guess. I serve as an engineering student ambassador for UNC Charlotte, which is the school I go to. I'm a sophomore mechanical engineering major. I'm also a part of Serve Team, which is our volunteering group on campus, and I'm on the Environment and Animals Committee. I'm the marketing lead for that, and I really enjoy that. We get to do a lot of cool things around Charlotte and in the community. And our group is really integrated with organizations within Charlotte that are working to make a difference. We worked recently with Innovation Barn, and they do a lot with like recycling 3D printing materials, stuff with bees, mushrooms, like all things environmentally related. So that's a really cool thing that I do on campus. I'm also a part of archery club, so I get to shoot every week, and that's a pretty cool opportunity. So yeah, that's a little bit about outside of school what I do. In addition to that, I guess in general, to answer the latter half of that question, a lot of people ask in general how I balance commitments and stuff like that. And I would definitely say it really just depends on, I guess, the person. I would say a lot of it comes down to what you're passionate about, what you want to put your energy into, how much time you have on your plate, stuff like that. And I guess if you want to get better at that, challenge yourself to grow in different areas, stuff that you haven't necessarily done before, just different ways to challenge yourself and figure out how exactly is best for you to go about planning and going about stuff.
That's awesome. So you gave like some advice on how to balance everything else in life with scouting. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to join a unit and hasn't yet?
Yeah, so I'd say in general, I highly recommend joining any and all older youth programs. Sea Scouts is a great opportunity to work with a tightly knit group. A lot of ships tend to be smaller, which is really good in a way, because it gives you a chance to work with that group towards planning something such as a long cruise. And it's a great opportunity to get a chance to lead, mentor, and work with those people to see that happen. And you definitely get to know them a lot better, because you have to work together, whether you're doing things such as practicing drills, um, setting an anchor. You always have to know the command, work with your team, work with the chain of command within your tight-knit group. And I really think that's something I appreciate about older youth programs.
Yeah, so you talked about older youth programs a bit. Um, so we kind of talked about, maybe somebody who's new to scouting in general, trying to figure out what should I do, what should I join. What kind of opportunities are there for, youth in scouting that maybe are new, or maybe even adults that are new to the program?
Yeah. So for our youth members, we have a good amount of training opportunities between National Youth Leadership Training and National Advanced Youth Leadership Training, are two things I highly recommend. I was an NYLT SPL, and my staff pretty much was all Ventures and Sea Scouts who were working to give back to older youth programs. So whether you're staffing or being a participant for those, it's a great opportunity to develop and stuff like in leadership and pretty much everything else. Just a great opportunity to make friends. I still work with a lot of people who I had in my NYLT groups and my NAO group. So great opportunities there to meet other people. I would also definitely say the high adventure bases are really cool opportunities for Sea Scouts to check out, whether it's Sea Base or Northern Tier or even Philmont. Sea Scouts have the opportunity to do really whatever they put their minds to. Um, and that's one of the things that is really great about older youth programs is the youth have more of a chance to decide what they want to prioritize and lead and do as a group. As far as adults go, I would say adults have great opportunities, whether it be Sea Badge and doing a virtual Sea Badge or an in-person one. It's a great opportunity to set goals for your Sea Scout ship and grow your unit. And on top of that, networking with other ship leaders is a thing that you can do at all times as an adult leader, whether it be learning how to operate on a new sailing vessel if another Sea Scout ship locally to you has one, or setting goals for recruiting and stuff like that. I think it's really great for our adults in general to work together with other leaders and other Sea Scout units just to learn where they can grow and improve in boating and just membership and everything else.
All right. So you obviously just do all the scouting things. You're like the biggest scout nerd in the world right now. So what drives you to become a better scouter?
I'll definitely say challenging myself is something that I really appreciate because about the program, there's a lot that you can do within scouting, pretty much anything, as long as it's in the Guide to Safe Scouting, of course. But but in general, I've been able to do pretty much anything because I've done dog sledding at Northern Tier through the UPIC program. And that was a really cool opportunity that I did a few years ago. I've done long cruises with my Sea Scout ship. So I would definitely say just challenging myself, experiencing new things, and biggest of all is probably meeting new people. Is definitely something that keeps me to want to keep growing in the program because you can pretty much do anything anywhere. The cool thing about our program is we all share the same Scout oath and law. So just meeting people who appreciate those values is something that's really special.
Right. And I heard you mention earlier, kind of hinted at NYLT. I heard you mention that you were an SPL at some point. So this next question may, I guess be pretty easy for you. And that is, did scouting teach you the ability to then teach, kind of pass on the knowledge to others?
Yes, for sure. I would say pretty much all areas of scouting require you to be able to teach in some way, or someone at least is doing the teaching. So yeah, whether it be running a meeting and having to plan out some time for instruction or a skill or something like that, or whether it's working on your rank requirements, especially within Sea Scouts, I think it's a really cool thing that our requirements are broken up, where it's basically with apprentice, you're tending to learn a lot of the basic skills. Ordinary, you tend to have to know those skills kind of more off the top of your head, stuff like that. A able, you're going into more advanced skills such as splices and stuff like that. But then with quartermaster, you have to be able to teach everything that you had beforehand. And I think that's a really unique aspect of our program is pretty much everything you do, you have to be able to teach and lead, which is really special because knowing something is very different than teaching or leading it. And that's really a full understanding of a topic. And I think that's something I really think is really cool about the Sea Scout program.
So going off of like teaching and scouting and all the trainings and everything, what are some tips you would give scouts to become a better teacher?
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of different lessons you could have when it comes to this. But some of the ones that I would say for this is listen first and talk second. I would say the first thing you want to do is understand, I guess, whether it's teaching or just working with someone, you definitely want to understand first, I guess, what they have to say, where they're coming from, and where they are in that area. Because if you're teaching someone, but they happen to know everything related to that, then maybe you could teach them something else or teach them something a bit more advanced. So it really just depends on where that person's at. Maybe they're having issues with something that you don't see. So just I would definitely say absorbing the information first and then figuring out how you want to go about it. Another I would say is less is more. This is something that I've really appreciated over the years, whether it's slides or information or how you deliver it. I think it's really important to not necessarily overdo it and overthink it, but just to put the most key things that will actually stick with people, because that's what will be applicable in their lives and stuff that they'll memorize and see. Because if I put one picture on a slide, you're probably going to remember it versus if I put 20. Um, and then another, I guess, is to know your audience and know your material. Kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's important just to know your group. Because if you're working with young kids versus older kids, it just depends on how you want to go about it. And definitely knowing your material beforehand is important so you come prepared because the Scout motto is to be prepared.
So one more question, kind of building off of that, more of a fun one. Out of everything that you've taught in your lifetime in scouting, what has been your favorite teaching topic?
Yeah. I guess I would say leadership. I would say because even though it seems simple at the surface, it's definitely one of the most realistic and applicable topics you have in life. One thing that I personally love to say is a leader is nothing without training and experience. And I think that's very true. Because within Scouts, we have several trainings such as ILSS, NYLT, and Wood Badge that challenge our leaders to work in different teams and do different activities to get them outside of their comfort zones. And that's what makes them be able to go back to their units and be good leaders. So I would definitely say two aspects of leadership that are very important are training and experience. But on top of that, within the games and stuff that we do, we have to when we're within scouting there's a lot of different topics that we cover that are a bit deeper than what you would say because when you look at leadership it's easy to say okay I'm here to tell these people to do this thing but there's various lessons you learn along the way such as what if you have an ethical controversy, what if these two people are disagreeing, what if this person's leadership style is different than yours? What if they're hearing something different? So it's very interesting to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite topic, because there's so many different ways you can orchestrate it in games and how you go about it, and different projects. So yeah, I would say leadership is probably my favorite topic to teach.
All right, so with all of your teaching experience and you're learning everything and just all the trips and all the things in scouting, have you ever had to use your scouting knowledge in a situation outside of scouting? And if you have, can we have an example of it?
Yeah. So I guess one example that I can think of um, would be an alternative service break trip I took last year for my college. So that's basically where we volunteered over the course of our spring break to do different service activities. I guess the lesson that I got from scouting that I was able to apply there is knowing different things when it comes to itineraries, packing list, and I guess trip planning, because we do that a lot within scouts. So when we had planning meetings and stuff like that, I was able to ask questions that were very relevant for the trip because our trip leaders hadn't really planned any trips like that before. So just asking some simple questions like, okay, where are our water sources? Where are our bathrooms? Were just good questions for them to consider. Um, should we have a packing list for this? And what else do we need to bring? What type of service are we doing exactly? What weather conditions could be there? Just different things outside of the box that you wouldn't normally think of because I'd done it all before within my troop or my ship or my crew. So just stuff like that little things that are just applicable in everyday life.
All right. So for this next question, if you're currently following the National Boatswain account on Instagram, this is going to be, a freebie. You're going to know this instantaneously. But for those who don't, you got to educate us, Evan. And so, have you had the opportunity to travel for Scouts, for any of your units, any of your positions?
Yeah, I've had a good amount of opportunities. As far as being national boasting goes, I had the opportunity to present at the national annual meeting this past May in Atlanta, which was a really cool opportunity. I had to got to present on that Sea Scouts alongside my counterparts for venturing, who was the national VOA president, and I also got to meet the national chief. So it was really cool to be able to see our three programs kind of come together at that and be able to present. I also was able to present at the National Jamboree this summer, one presentation for recruiting and starting new ships, and another about the future of Sea Scouts. And that was really productive because we had a lot of new people interested in Sea Scouts and ships that started because of some of those presentations that I did alongside the rest of some other members of the National Quarterdeck, which was really cool. Also, one thing I did this past October was presenting at a Sea Badge course at the summit. And that course was really exciting to have because it was the first Sea Scout anything at the summit. So that was a pretty historic moment. And we're looking forward to hosting another course, Sea Badge course, this upcoming year, hopefully. And yeah, so in addition to that, outside of I guess bosun responsibilities. I've done a lot of Sea Scout events for my council, along with other councils just in the local area, just to help represent the program. My council always hosts an event called Davy Jones Rendezvous, where we have a lot of sailing competitions, or not sailing, but like boating competitions. We've done races before for rowing. We did one event that we did this year that was a lot of fun was canoe tug of war where we basically had to paddle, and that was a lot of fun with our hands. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, so a lot of opportunities to represent the program in different ways.
Awesome. So you've traveled everywhere. So where was the best place you traveled for a scouting event?
Yeah, I would say by far for me, it was something I did this summer, which was going to Kandersteg International Scout Center in Switzerland. Very beautiful place.
Okay, and very similarly, what has been your favorite scouting event to attend so far in your lifetime?
I would say probably the event that I had when I went there, which was the Kisk 100-year anniversary jamboree. I would say it was really cool to be able to be there for that historic moment, but also just to be there with one of my good friends. It was kind of funny enough. One of my friends actually from my troop moved up there in 2020. And in February of this year, he was like, "Hey, do you want to come up to this jamboree with me?" I live like 30 minutes away from there. And I was like, "That's awesome." So I got to go up to his place, stay for a few days, get to go to some places around Switzerland, and then get to experience the jamboree. And I hadn't seen him in 3 years. That was a really cool opportunity, as well as all the other international scouters that were there and the activities that that place offers. It was just truly amazing. We got to do zip lining, a bunch of hikes around the area. We also got to hike a glacier, which was something I've had on my bucket list for a long time, and that was a really cool opportunity. So yeah, Pandersteg has a lot of things to offer. I'm also an ambassador for it, so fun fact. And yeah.
All right. So with all the camping and outdoor things you have done, I think this might be the most important question. What is your favorite camp meal?
I would say by far it has to be Mountain Man. I love it so much, whether it's an MRE, homemade, whatever. I made it actually this holiday. It's delicious.
Okay. Me personally, big fan of chicken tender and mac and cheese day at my camp here in my council. Always a home run, but you have fun with your MREs. Taking more of a turn on talking about the national quarterdeck and things of that nature. Um, I guess how did you get to this position? So I guess what inspired you to want to become national bosun or even be in a national position at all?
Yeah. So I first learned about this position pretty early on. When I actually first joined Sea Scouts. I was looking through seascout.org, great resource by the way. Um, but yeah, I was looking through seascout.org for various things that about the program. And I saw something about the National Quarterdeck, so I looked further into it. And honestly, from that point, even I knew that I wanted to apply to be National Bosun. And I knew that I really loved the program and that I wanted to help it grow. And over the years, a lot of things led me to this. So that's why I took the time to apply. I knew that I had ideas and stuff that would be applicable, and I really wanted to help the program grow.
So, going back to like right before you were national bosun, what were did you like have any other leadership positions before bosun, national bosun, and what were they?
Yeah. So some of the more predominant positions I was the National Service Territory 15 Venturing Officers Association president. And before that, I was my council's VOA president, which was the first council position I ever had. And that really helped me to grow in that sense. That was one of the first major events I ever held was bringing back our council's Venture Vortex, and that was really cool event that we got to hold again after a few years of not having it. Um, and then, as far as Sea Scouts goes, another predominant position I had in Sea Scouts was I served as the National Sea Scout Event Support Chair. So I had the opportunity to work on different things to help support events, get events promoted, come up with resources for the program overall. So that was one of the main roles that I had that positioned me well to run for national bosun, in addition to some other things. So yeah.
All right. You talked about leadership a lot during this interview, and so I wanted to ask, as you very well know, a big part of leadership is solving problems, and sometimes it's a very nonlinear path. Leadership can go up, down, left, right, all the cardinal directions. And so, as national bosun, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in this position?
I would say probably one of the biggest is logistics. I would say the logistics for this role has been very different than others that I've held in the past. I would say that I definitely hold logistics to a higher standard for pretty much everything we do, such as what are we doing, why are we doing it, just how can we reach the most people, what's the most effective, stuff like that. Because with this role, we reach different people and we just got to think about does this apply to Sea Scout ships that are landlocked? Whatever, how do we reach people? So just different things, because we are working with people across the country. So it's just a lot to keep in mind, and to think about how we can get stuff out as soon as possible, reach as many people, stuff like that. So I'd say logistics is probably one of the biggest challenges that I deal with, but I think I've taken it on pretty good.
So, with all the ups and downs that we get with the national positions, what have been some of your favorite parts of being the national bosun?
I would say definitely one of my favorite parts is the team we have is the national quarterdeck. Because it's really great to have us all come together, and have people who are just as excited about scouting as I am, and whether it be scouts, Sea Scouts venturing, or the Order of the Arrow. I think it's really cool the team we formed. But outside of that, in terms of like responsibilities, I would definitely say meeting scouts across the country, helping to form new ships, and overall, just contributing to our program's growth is something that I really appreciate about this role, is just the amount of people we reach and the ships that we help develop and work with. One example that I can think of just off the top of my head is I had the opportunity to meet some Sea Scouts down in Puerto Rico, and it's just been really cool seeing that ship develop. Them having the opportunity to go to a sea badge course, I've kept in contact with them, seeing them grow and be very, very successful this year has been great.
All right. So, one of the things that I know I appreciate about leadership, especially at a national council, sort of an elevated level, is the impact that we're able to make. And so, I wanted to ask, as national bosun, or even in your other positions in leadership that you've held, Um, I guess what is the importance of impact to you, and how have you been able to make an impact in your positions?
I would definitely say inspiring people, I guess, is one of the biggest impacts have taken away from this position. Being able to teach at Jamboree and Sea Badge, it was really amazing to see the leaders, I guess, have light bulb moments or just appreciate that aspect of, I guess, what I had to say. So I guess that's one of the things that I appreciate is if I have the chance to inspire someone, change them, lead them to any form of opportunity or direction, that's made my day. Enough done.
Right. So obviously you're one of the bigger leaders in the national position as well as some other national officers. What advice would you give to someone who has the want or like desire to become a leader?
I would definitely say know what's around you, know what opportunities you have, whether it's scouting or life, just you always want to be aware of what you have around you. Um, to whether it's training, trips, just I would say just keep in mind and be always be cognizant of what you have. Um, I guess just don't take things for granted, whether it's time or what you have. Um, and I would definitely say put yourself in environments where you work with different teams. You're not always going to have the choice of who's on your team, so it's always, I guess, good to know and experience and work on different projects and stuff. Um, whether it's scouting or otherwise, where you get to put yourself in a situation where you're working with different people, I guess.
All right, so Evan, as much as I enjoy working with you, as much as I enjoy, serving under you, there's going to come a point where everybody on this podcast is going to be moving on in terms of position, in terms of their life. And so I want to ask you, for a new scout, maybe not even a new scout, but somebody who's in Sea Scouts that wants to serve on the national quarterdeck, what kind of steps would you lay out for them in wanting to achieve that goal?
Yeah, so I would definitely say being able to serve your ship is a very important part. So, um, if you have the opportunity to serve as a bosun or a bosun's mate and be pretty predominant in that role, and have examples of how you demonstrated leadership for your ship and your community and otherwise, that's great. And also then maybe taking it a step further and being pretty active in your council or working with other local Sea Scout ships is definitely a huge plus when it comes to experience in general, but also just wanting to apply for the national quarterdeck. It's good to have those experiences on you prior to before you are able to make a larger difference in terms of outreach. Units and councils are definitely by far the most important thing for a program because those are the ones that directly impact our youth. But I would definitely say anyone who's considering applying should definitely be active in their ship and in their council, whether it's Sea Scouts, venturing, or the Order of the Arrow. All are really great experiences. So even if you're a lodge chief but you're a Sea Scout, you can I highly recommend that you apply for the National Guard.
So with all the leadership and everything that you do for national, what are some of the key elements that you think are important for leadership?
I guess prioritization would definitely be one of the biggest ones, just knowing because obviously there's a million things you could do as a leader, whether it's within your ship or nationally, but just knowing how to break it down and figure out what is the most important, what reaches the most people, stuff like that. I guess also just knowing the difference between leadership and management, um, knowing that you're working on with people to have fun time and not necessarily trying to tell them what to do, but making them want to do it, see the benefit in it, and see how they can grow and get what they can get out of it is definitely an important thing to know the difference between, making sure that you're always having fun. I guess another important aspect of leadership that's often overlooked is celebrating your victories and what you accomplished as a team. So definitely be sure to celebrate, and recognize the members that you have on your team.
All right, so once again on the topic of leadership, a lot of scouts, at least in my personal experience, sometimes they take in, that feedback, kind of like what you just said. Maybe they listen to what you just said. And sometimes, as we all do in leadership, we hit a wall. And so I ask you, how would you recommend a scout become a better leader? If are there any tools you can use to improve your leadership?
Yeah. So I would say, I guess experience wise, it's usually pretty easy to stick with what you're good at. But in reality, you can't usually improve yourself by sticking in what you're comfortable with. So kind of going back to what I said earlier, definitely know and be aware of what opportunities you have and always try and look for areas to challenge yourself. Because if you know you're not necessarily the best at giving speeches or organizing or stuff like that, I would definitely say go and do those things. Kind of as I was saying earlier, everyone who wants to be a leader needs training and experience. So just being able to put yourself in environments and places where you can either develop or practice it is always a really good thing.
So we talked a little bit ago about like other positions you've held. So has National Bosun been your favorite position? And if not, what was your favorite position?
I would definitely say this is my favorite position, because of the outreach we have. I think just the amount of people that I've got to know this year, um, personally, in addition to the work and projects we've created, have been really impactful. And I would definitely say this is one of the um, greatest positions I've had in terms of the amount of people that I work with. So I would say that's one of the by far reasons why it's my favorite.
All right. And there's still a good amount of your term left. And so, do you have any plans for the rest of your term as National Bosun?
Yeah. So far, over the course of this year, we've restructured the national quarterdeck. Currently, how it's structured is we have our local Sea Scout ships. We have council bosuns and council quarterdecks that work with those ships and ship members. And then we currently have six National Sea Scout support leads who oversee the current national service territories or council service territories, as they're called now. And they work with to help support the councils. And then on top of that, we have the National Quarterdeck, which consists of the National Bosun and National Bosun's mates who work with those. That's the current structure for the National Quarterdeck. We previously had a different one, but the current one has been working really well over the course of this year. And that's been a pretty new change. On top of that, we've helped to support the National Virtual Sea Scout Academy again, for Capital Area Council, which I'm really excited about, and registration is currently open. And that'll be happening at the end of January, going into early February, which will consist of 5 training days for Sea Scouts to advance in apprentice, ordinary, able, or quartermaster. And we'll also have a closing ceremony on Sunday night to celebrate, and stuff like that. And there'll also be a raffle for a full set of the National Quarterdeck patches. So cool opportunity there. Um, on top of that, over the course of this year, we've heavily increased our impact on social media. We've restarted the newsletter and now the podcast, which is a pretty cool thing. Just great ways to interact with Sea Scouts. Overall, the Instagram and the Sea Scout Instagram and the Sea Scout Facebook group are both helpful resources, for information, events, stuff like that. But I guess upcoming for the rest of the year, the National Quarterdeck is working to support Sea Badge courses for training, the National Virtual Sea Scout Academy, which is coming up, Winterfest in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which will be a really fun time that brings together exploring Sea Scouts and ventures, and also promoting National Quarterdeck applications for next year, so we can get more Sea Scouts working with us, and to take over, to promote the program and grow it.
So when your turn unfortunately does come to an end because you can't be National Quarter or Bosun forever, what are your goals after your term as Bosun?
Yeah. So my goal is to run again, not just kidding. Um, so yeah, after this term, I'm gonna be doing a couple things over the summer. So I'm gonna be serving as a part of National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience, or NAIL, staff at the summit, for one session, for session one, there. So I'm really excited for that. And I'll also be going to NOAC, which is the National Order of the Arrow Conference. I'm really excited for that. That was one of my favorite events up to that point in time during 2022 when I went to the last NOAC. I served as inductions and ceremony experiences staff and Sea Scout staff there, and that was a really fun time. And I'll probably be doing something similar this next NOAC. So I'm really looking forward to that. And a lot of members of the National Quarterdeck are going to be there from this term. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, just different trips and stuff. Anything that I can do to help impact other scouts, have fun, is probably what I plan to do after this term.
All right. And, it's been not too long, but to sort of round off this interview, one of the more important things in leadership can be a guide, someone who gets you to where you are, someone who helps you achieve your vision of future success. And so, I wanted to ask you, do you have any, or did you have any mentors that helped you get to where you are right now? Maybe in life, maybe in scouting.
Yeah, I would definitely say I had a lot of mentors and different adults who I've worked with in different areas. I wouldn't say there's been a sole person who's guided me in terms of what I want to do. I would say a lot of that came from what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do. But I would definitely say I've had a lot of different adults who I've worked with between Sea Scouts venturing and the Order of the Arrow, who I've really appreciated. But the cool thing I would say is a lot of what I've been able to do and the goals I've set are stuff that um, I was passionate about, learned about, stuff like that. I would definitely say my family overall has been my most consistent supporters of everything overall. But I would say a lot of what I wanted to do came down to stuff I was passionate about. And that kind of came down to what I was talking about earlier, which is the importance of knowing yourself and charting your course and figuring out what visions and goals you want to get to. And that's what I've done.
All right. And with that comes to a conclusion tonight's podcast and this interview. Evan, thank you very much for joining us. Before we go ahead and end, is there anything else you'd like to broadcast to the world? This is your time.
If you're not a Sea Scout, be a scout.org, type in your zip code, join a ship. But definitely, if you are in Sea Scouts, check out the opportunities on seascout.org. There are a lot of them. Whether you're a youth or adult member, there's a lot of cool things you can do in our program. So definitely look around, check out the socials, as Chris was mentioning earlier. The Sea Scout Facebook and Instagram have a lot of information on how to join. And yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you once again for listening into the Lookouts podcast, and we hope to see you next time.